My girlfriend's daughter smashed a glass bowl over my son's head and blamed it on stress. My girlfriend defended her every time. 7 months later, she was arrested for attacking another kid. Hello, Reddit. I plus here. I never thought I'd become the kind of parent who packed up his child and disappeared overnight. But when your kid starts hiding in closets because he's terrified of someone in his own home, you stop worrying about keeping the peace. You start worrying about survival. I'm 38. My son Mason is 10. A little over a year ago, I moved in with my girlfriend Rachel, 36. She had a daughter named Brianna, 14. At first, things seemed perfect. Brianna welcomed us warmly. She taught Mason how to make friendship bracelets. They played video games together and even worked on school projects as a team. I remember thinking I'd finally found the family we'd both been missing. Turns out I was wrong. The first red flag came a few months after we moved in. One evening, Mason brought Brianna a cupcake he'd helped bake. She looked at it, looked at him, then threw it straight into the trash. Nobody asked for this. Mason looked crushed. Rachel laughed and said Brianna was just having a rough day. That became the excuse for everything: a rough day, a bad mood, stress from school, teenage hormones. There was always a reason, never a consequence. Over time, Brianna got worse. She started ordering Mason around like he was her servant. Get me water, clean my room, bring me snacks. If he said no, she'd scream. If I stepped in, Rachel would tell me I was being too hard on her. Then came the incident that changed everything. We were eating dinner one night. Nothing unusual, just pasta and garlic bread. Mason accidentally knocked over a cup of juice. Before I could grab a towel, Brianna exploded. She started shouting about how he ruined everything. Then she grabbed a heavy glass serving bowl and hurled it across the table. It struck Mason above the ear. The sound still haunts me. He hit the floor crying. Blood immediately started running down the side of his face. I rushed him to the hospital, 3 stitches. 3. When we got home, I expected Rachel to finally admit there was a problem. Instead, she said, "You're acting like Brianna did it on purpose." I stared at her. My son had stitches, and she was defending the person who caused them. That was the moment something inside me broke. Over the next few months, things spiraled. Brianna became obsessed with controlling Mason. She'd steal his toys, delete his game saves, destroy school projects. One morning, I found his favorite bicycle covered in spray paint. When I asked who did it, Brianna smiled. Actually smiled. Rachel claimed there was no proof. Mason stopped inviting friends over. He stopped sleeping through the night. He started asking if we could move somewhere else. One night, I found him curled up inside his bedroom closet, holding a flashlight. The door locked from the inside. When I asked what he was doing, he whispered, "If Brianna gets mad again, she won't find me here." That nearly broke me. The final straw came on a Saturday afternoon. Rachel was at work. I was in the garage. Suddenly, I heard screaming. I ran inside and found Mason pinned against the wall. Brianna had both hands around his shirt collar. She was screaming inches from his face. When she saw me, she shoved him to the ground. Mason hit the corner of a bookshelf. I saw red. I immediately called my mother, packed bags, and left. Rachel acted like I was overreacting. She said families fight. She said siblings argue. She said I was abandoning them. What she didn't realize was that I'd spent months documenting everything: photos, videos, text messages, medical records, everything. A few weeks later, I rented an apartment. Just me and Mason. The difference was immediate. The nightmares stopped. The anxiety disappeared. My son started laughing again. Meanwhile, things got worse for Rachel. Without Mason around, Brianna turned her anger elsewhere. She started fighting classmates, suspended twice, expelled from sports, caught bullying younger students. Rachel still defended her. Every single time. Then 7 months after we left, I got a phone call. It was a detective. At first, I thought something happened to Rachel. Instead, he asked if I'd be willing to provide information about Brianna's history of violence. Apparently, she'd attacked a 12-year-old girl at a community center. The girl suffered a broken nose. There was security footage, witnesses, everything. Brianna was arrested. Rachel called me that night hysterical, not to apologize, not to ask how Mason was doing. She blamed me. According to her, leaving had destroyed their family. I couldn't believe it. For over a year, she'd ignored every warning sign, every bruise, every tear, every cry for help. Now suddenly it was my fault? I hung up. A few months later, I learned Brianna was ordered into a residential treatment program. The court determined she needed serious psychological intervention. Rachel finally admitted she'd spent years making excuses instead of getting her daughter help. By then, it was far too late. Last week, Mason turned 11. We celebrated with pizza, laser tag, and way too much cake. At one point, he pulled me aside and handed me a folded piece of paper. It was an essay he'd written for school. The topic was my hero. He wrote about me. Not because I was strong, not because I was brave, but because, in his words, when I was scared, my dad believed me. I won't lie. I cried reading it. Looking back, leaving was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it was also the easiest, because no relationship, no matter how much you love someone, is worth sacrificing your child's safety. And if protecting my son makes me the villain in someone else's story, I'm perfectly okay with that.